All right, first and foremost, give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and who is worthy to be counted for double honors. Peace and salutations to you brothers out there pushing this truth wholeheartedly and sincerely and full of the gospel. It's the brother Gabari from the Indiana camp coming back at you again, one of the sit down. And one thing I want to touch on or I want to talk about in today's lesson is I guess you want to call it a stronghold or something that has our people, wrapped, in a headlock or in a chokehold, if you will, especially in the Christian church, is the subject of Gentiles, all right, or the subject of the Lord loves everybody, all right. You can type that in anywhere, and you'll basically get that Christian plantation Christianity answer anywhere you go. Matter of fact, just to prove that, I'm gonna open up a new tab. I'm gonna go to Google and I'm gonna type in, does God love everyone according to the Bible? And this is what it says. It says, according to the Bible, God shows general goodness and mercy to all people, but theoretically, theologian, it's like here, but theological interpretations differ on whether he loves everyone in the same deep or saving way. All right, so you basically get that, of course, look, John 3:16, you get the whole God loves everyone stigma, so and this is completely false. All right, this is completely this is just not true. Okay. And a lot of people, and especially a Christian church, what they love using is that of course they throw in John 3:16, which we've tackled that a few days ago. I believe it was last week. We tackled the whole John 3:16 type of stigma, which really that's not even talking about the entire world. That's actually talking about the governing body of Israel. All right, but it's other scriptures that they use, such as, hold on. Romans chapter 10 verse 12, it says, for there is no difference between Jew and the Greek, for the same Lord over all is rich unto all, and is called upon him. All right. Another one here, Galatians 3:28, it says, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Mashiach Yahushua. All right, so this is, these scriptures right here is what the Christian church uses to show that the Lord loves the Israelites, who are the representation of the Jews, and the other nations, who are the representation of the Greeks. All right, showing that, the Lord loves all. We're all one body. We're all one up under him. But this couldn't be further from the truth. All right. These Greeks, when it says the word Greek right here, is not talking about actual Greeks, actual heathens, actual Gentiles. All right. But with a spiritual eye and with the spiritual and with the understanding of that the Lord endows you with, you'll understand that these are actually Israelites. All right. Now, when it says no difference between Jew nor Greek, it's actually talking about there's no difference between an Israelite that knows that they're an Israelite versus an Israelite that doesn't know that they're an Israelite. Okay. But you people won't understand that, especially the Christian church, because you don't know where the Hellenization period started. All right. When you read the Bible, all right, you got it broken down into the Old Testament and the New Testament, which you got the first 5 books being, the Mosaic Law. Then you got Joshua, Judges, Ruth, First and Second Samuel, First and Second Kings, Chronicles, being what the history of when we ruled. You know, you got King Saul, King David, King Solomon. Then with the splitting of the kingdoms. Then you got Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther. You know, which all befall around the Babylonian Empire. Then you got Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastic, Songs of Solomon, which were all King David's and King Solomon's writings. And then you got Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Lamentations, which all still happened in the Babylonian Empire. You know, Ezekiel, Daniel, also still in the Babylonian Empire. Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zechariah, Haggai, Zephaniah, Haggai, and Zechariah, and Malachi, which all these happened around the Persian Medo Empire, in between the Persian Empire and the and the Babylonian Empire. You know, which if you read back in Daniel, the 7th chapter, you know those are 2 of the 4 beasts that it's talking about. All right. Now, the 4 beasts was 4 kingdoms that's going to be implemented on the planet Earth that actually happened. You know, the first being the Babylonian Empire, the second being the Persian Media Empire, the third being the Greek Empire, and the fourth being the Roman Empire. All right. Now, in the book of Revelations, it prophesied that Roman Empire was going to fall for a period for 1,000 years, but then they were going to come back into power. You see? But when you read just the 66 books that Esau allows you to read, you'll notice that one of the beasts, one of the empires that I just named, aren't mentioned in the Bible nowhere. All right, because here you got the first 2 beasts in the Old Testament, but then when you go to the New Testament, starting with Matthew's, you're already in the 4th beast's rulership, which is the Roman Empire. All right, so with that limited knowledge, that you're receiving, you'll question yourself, be like, well, what happened to the Greek Empire? Why can't we read nothing about the Greek Empire? That's where you go in to that's when you go right here into the Apocrypha, which were books that were taken out of the Bible, because what they named people by names, especially in Maccabees, where it talks about Alexander the Great. And with these books, you can actually trace who Esau Edom is back down to his heritage. So with these books, you can pinpoint exactly who are the Edomites, you know, through nationality. You see, so Esau knew what he was doing in the 1600s when he created the Bible Destruction Group. All right, so no, Salaki, hold on, bear with me for a minute. I gotta plug my laptop up. All right, there we go. So yeah, and this answers the day old question of, well, how if the Greeks are talking about Israelites who don't know that they're Israelites, how is that? Well, let's get this right here. This is First Maccabees chapter 1. Let me think exactly where is it at. Is it 14? It's actually 11. So this is First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 11. It says, in those days, it says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we depart from them, we have much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein, that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathens. You see, so what did they do? They put down the statutes, laws, and commandments, the Mosaic law, the law that we were supposed to have been following. And what did they do? They took customs of the heathen. All right. And what did some of those customs consist of? Verse 14, whereby they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the custom of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, which was a Greek, which was an Edomite, he thought to reign over Egypt, and he might have dominion over the two realms. All right, and that's mainly what the Maccabees goes into. Now you have what is it? Certain men called the Maccabees revolt, which was a war between the Greek Empire and the Maccabees. All right, who were Israelites. And then later on down, when you go into the history, that's when John Hyrcanus, he comes into play, and then which he sets up the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and then so forth. And then that's when you get into the Maccabees. That's when you get into Matthews, and now you have the ones who knew they were Israelites that kept the customs. All right, but the certain ones of our people who fell away, who did what? Who likened themselves and joined themselves under the heathens. The ones of our people who knew they were Israelites, they disowned them. They actually looked at them as if they were heathens. So when you have right here in John the 7th chapter and the 35th verse, when it says, and then let me go up a little bit, Slakia. Verse 33, it says, then Yahushua said unto them, for a little while I am with you, and then I go unto him that sent me. It says, ye shall seek me, and ye shall not find me, and where I am, thither ye cannot come. Then said the Jews amongst themselves, where will he go that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed amongst the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? You see, so what? Our people, the ones who knew they were Israelites, the ones who was keeping the customs, they knew that they were Israelites amongst the Gentiles, living as the Gentiles. See, because you got this word disperse, which if you look at that word disperse, it goes into the Greek word diaspora, which we're going to get right now. Hold on, bear with me. All right. So you got the word diaspora, which means a scattering, a dispersion of Israelites dispersed amongst foreign nations. You see? So what? The Jews of our people, the ones who knew they were Israelites, they said, in other words, they said, where is he going to go? Is he going to go amongst the Israelites dispersed amongst the Gentiles and teach those Israelites? All right. So here it is. You got you got Jews calling Israelites Gentiles. You see how that you see how all that is put together and it makes sense. That's what it talks about when it says Jew nor Greek. All right. There's no difference between an Israelite that knows he's an Israelite versus an Israelite that doesn't know he's an Israelite. They're one and the same. They're all up under Yahushua. All right, and that's and that's the long tail of the Christian church has been trying to spread that lie and saying, oh no, that's talking about the other nations. Oh no, that's talking about the heathens. No, it's talking about Israelites who back in Maccabees, back in back in the Greek Empire, they were they were Hellenized. All right, which means they basically took on the customs, they took on the likeness of the Greeks, and they started acting like them. All right, they started shaving their beards off, wearing togas, doing the customs of Greeks. So you got certain of our people marrying with their women. So you got certain of our people who actually looked like these other nations, that looked like whatever country that they were in, because they took upon the customs of those heathens. So our people who knew they were Israelites started to disown them, started to say, oh, they're not our people. Those are heathens, those are Greeks, those are Egyptians, those are Hamites. Matter of fact, let me do this. I'm finna ask Gemini, what does diaspora mean? It says diaspora refers to a large group of people who share a common ethnicity, nationality, or culture origin, but have dispersed away from their traditional homeland to live in various other parts of the world. The term originated from the Greek word diasporis, meaning to scatter or to spread about. All right. The Jewish diaspora, the original usage of the word referring to the exile of the scattering of the Jews population from the ancestral and following of the ancient conquest. And then they go into the Indian diaspora, the African diaspora, the diaspora. So yeah, so the diaspora, the dispersed, are basically our people living amongst the Gentiles, acting like them, taking upon their customs. And we've seen that, we proved that in what? The book of Maccabees. All right. So you had certain of our people take upon the Greek customs and started to do those things. And that's why back here in John the 7th chapter, the Lord said, listen, I'm finna go into those Gentiles and teach those Gentiles. All right. Which our people knew that, oh wait, he's gonna go to the Jews amongst the Gentiles and teach. So that is a clear cut to show you that our people are using the Gentile word to describe Israelites, though. You see? So when you read certain scriptures in the New Testament where it talks about Gentiles being saved or Gentiles having some type of redemption, 9 times out of 10, in fact, I'm even gonna say 9 times, 10 times out of 10, that's talking about an Israelite. You see? So with that understanding, with that type of mindset, the Cornelius doctrine shouldn't be that hard to figure out anymore. Matter of fact, in the book of Romans, the 11th chapter, it basically breaks down itself when you come in with that type of mindset now. You see? All right, this is Romans chapter 11 and verse 17. It says, and if some of the branches were broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree, wert grafted in amongst them, and with them partakers of the root and fatness of the olive tree, boast not against the branches. But if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off, that I might be grafted in. You see, you can't be grafted into a tree that you were never a part of in the first place. All right. So this whole thing about the heathens being grafted into the promises of Israel makes no sense whatsoever. Verse 20 says, well, because of the unbelief that they were broken off. You see, because what? They didn't believe as we believe, that the reason why they broken off. They were what? They were scattered. And thou standeth by faith, not being high-minded, but fear. It says, for if Yahweh spared not the natural branches, it says, take heed lest he also spare not thee. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severe of Yahweh of them which fail severely, but towards thee goodness, if thou continue in the goodness. Otherwise thou also shalt be cut off. And it says, and they also, if they abide not still into unbelief. I'm gonna stop right. I'm gonna keep going. It says, for if thou wert cut off of the wild olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to natural unto the good olive tree, how much more shall thee which be the wild branches be grafted into their own olive tree? For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own consent, that blindness in the part is happened to the Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be to come. And so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion a deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. All right. You know, so the whole olive tree and the natural olive branches and the wild olive branches basically goes into what the falling away of certain of our people, but what being grafted back in, you know. Now, understanding that, let's go back a few chapters. This is Romans chapter 9 and verse 4. It says, I'm going to start from verse 3. It says, for I could wish that myself was accursed from Mashiach, for my brethren, this is Paul's talking, it says, for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption. You see, what the word pertaineth mean belong to. So the adoption belongs to Israelites. They're the only ones who can get adopted back in. All right. So when it talks about Gentiles being saved, Gentiles getting grafted back in, those Gentiles are Israelites. Israelites who didn't know that they were Israelites, who didn't grow up in the customs of being an Israelite. But what? But by the flesh, by the bloodline, are still Israelites. They're being what? Entered back in. To whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law. Who was the law given to? It was only given to the Israelites. When you go back and read Mosaic law, he was saying what? Speak this into the children of Israel. Speak that into the children of Israel. You see? The heathens was nowhere around when Moses gave these laws so they can learn how to do it too. No. It was Israel. We had to get it first. It says, in the service of Yahweh and the promises. You see, all this belongs into Israel. It says, whom's are the fathers, and whom's according to the flesh Mashiach came, who is all over, God bless forever. Amen. You see? So what? Understanding that what the Israel is where the promises belong. What did the Lord said to Abraham in the book of Genesis? He said, in Isaac shall thy seed be called. You see? When you go through all out the Bible, you understand that the Lord really only chose Israel. He never dealt with any of these other nations. But it talks about that in the book of Psalms. All right? He never dipped and dabbed or never engrafted in these heathenistic nations. But what? The certain of our people who took upon their customs, the Lord is what? Bringing them back in. All right? Because what does the scripture say? The scripture says what? None shall fall out of the hand. Saki, bear with me for a minute. All right, we all know the story of the wheat and the tare, but I'm gonna get straight to the point. Um, this is verse 30. It says, Matthew chapter 13, verse 30. It says, I'm gonna start from 29. It says, but he said, nay, let least while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat of them. Let them both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reaper, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them with bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat unto my barn. It says, another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in the field, which indeed in least of all the seeds, but when it is grown, it is greater amongst the herbs, and become a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof. All right, so the parable of that of 13 and 30 is the Lord's going to separate he's going to separate his people from the heathens. And it's not going to be one of our people who's going to suffer as a heathen in the kingdom of heaven. All right, the Lord is going to join us back unto one another. You see, so right now we don't look on the outward appearance. You can come in looking like a strictly Moabite, or look like a Ammonite, or look like a Chinese man, or a Middle Eastern man. If your spirit goes back to an Israelite, ultimately, just like it says back in the Romans, you're ultimately going to get saved. To what? Bring uncleanness out of Jacob. You see, so we try men by their spirits. We understand that. Listen, Jake loved to have sex. So what Jake is going to get with certain women of the heathen nation, of the other nations, and most likely that baby is going to come out looking like their mother, which is a heathen. And so far down the line, that child is going to look more and more heathenistic. You see? But that spirit goes back into an Israelite. All right? And that's the whole understanding of the Gentiles and the Jews. It's not a hard concept. Once you really understand and get the understanding of Maccabees, that's where it really starts off at. That's another reason why Esau took that book out of the Bible, out of the actual Bible. Because once you understand, once you read about how our people had a falling off, how our people went into these other nations. Matter of fact, let me grab this one right quick. This is 2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 15. It says, not settling. Hold on, Slocky, let me see. I'm going to start from verse 14. It says that the priest had no courage to serve any more the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastening to the partakers of the unlawful allowances in the place of exercise, after the game of dices called them forth, not setting by the honor of their fathers, but likening the glory of the Grecians by all the best. By reason thereof, sore calamity came upon them, and they had them in their enemies and avengers, whom customs they followed so earnestly, and unto whom they desire to be like in all things. You see? So it was certain of our people, man, who wanted to be completely Greeked out, who wanted to be like Timothy's father. You see? Who wanted to be just like the Greeks, do every custom that they did, shave their heads, shave their beards, wore their garments, spoke Greek, spoke Latin. You see? It's certain of our people who completely took on their customs. And by the time of the Roman Empire, a whole another empire later, you had certain of our people completely engulfed in that society, in that way of life. So the ones of our people who knew that they were Israelites completely disregarded those people, completely disregarded those Israelites, basically looked down upon them. Like, you're not a true Israelite. You're not doing what an Israelite would do. And that's why Paul said, what a Jew is not a Jew outwardly, but inwardly. You see? And that's why the Lord said what he said in John the 7th chapter. All right? And that's why the certain of our people, the scribes and Pharisees, said what they said. What are you going to go to the Jews amongst the Greeks and teach those? You going to teach those heathens? You know, they called them heathens. They looked down upon them. But what the Lord used those men, those people, to wake up, and that's why that's where you have the issuing in of Paul. All right, and what the one account where Peter was in a dream and he seen the sheet lifted down in the net, and the Yahweh Shah said, "What? Kill, teach, and eat." All right, that all goes into what basically our people who wasn't in the customs of Israel, following after the Greek customs, now being converted back into who they truly were, now being grafted in, now being adopted. All right. So that's the understanding on that. That's the understanding of the Greeks. All right. Or like the apostles said years ago, the Gentiles versus the Gentiles. You know, that's the understanding on it. And if you can't get it, listen, if you don't understand that, if that's too hard for you, if you can't grasp that knowledge, then I don't know what to tell you, you know, because it's not a real hard concept to understand. Once you know the history, what does Apostle Paul always say? You must know the history to understand the mystery. You see? If you don't understand that, if that's too hard for you to grasp, then I don't know what to tell you. Oh well, you might have to be destroyed. You'll understand it in the kingdom of heaven. All right. So with that, until next time, shalom.